Oh, I have a new one. Okay.
So we thought with the oath, you know, Rick, if you wanted to come out more like here and face, otherwise you three can just stay, you just stand and you'll just stay put where you're at.
Raise their right hand, I assume, is that kind of the process, and then we do them together, all three, or individually?
Well, I think she has the script down for you.
Yeah, I kind of glanced through that, and that's what I was.
So I think it was
Do
individual.
you want me to read that first part, Dave?
Yep, and then this will be Dan's, and that'll be
Okay,
Terry's, and that'll
okay.
be Warren's.
So they say that though individually,
Yeah.
so
There you will.
then repeat that, yep. Yep, I've got it there, right there. Here with that.
Staticky.
Oh,
Oh, it's the same as that.
Is it this one right here? No, that's the handy.
It kind of divides.
There it
This
is.
one, there it is.
Yeah, so then you'll just say it, and then
They repeat it, right.
And then we'll probably have you just stand up there, and then they'll stand at their tables.
Okay, thank you. You ready? All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Technical difficulty here. Do we have a welder in the building?
Oh,
Sue? Your spare pair?
yes.
Rick, it's not the screw missing, is it?
It might be.
Because I have a little kit in my classroom.
No, I
The
don't
screw
think
is a
that.
little
I think they
screwdriver.
might be beyond repair, actually, but I thought I actually had a second. I should take a little deeper in something like these here. There's generally there. Aha. Thought I had a second, thank you. Much better, thank you. It is an honor that you were appointed to guide the education of our community's children. Excuse me?
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. It is an honor that you were appointed to guide the education of our community's children. As you recite the oath of office, you assume a tremendous responsibility as a director of our school district with the duties empowered by the Minnesota Legislature. This power puts you and other members of our school board in the position of being both morally and legally responsible for equitable, quality education of every student in the district. In carrying out this responsibility, you will be asked to fulfill the roles of vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. In providing vision, the board, with extensive participation of the community, envisions the community's educational future and then formulates the goals, defines the outcomes, and sets the course for public schools. To achieve the vision, the board establishes a structure and creates an environment designed to ensure all students the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. Because as a board, we must be accountable to the community. We must ensure a continuous assessment of our student achievements and all conditions affecting the education of our children. As board members, we serve as education's key advocate on behalf of the students in our community schools to advance the vision for our schools. Furthermore, we must strive to work together with the superintendent and staff to lead the district toward fulfilling the vision we have created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills and knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. This time we will have each member take their oath of office, and we will start with Mr. Dan Schmidt. If you could raise your right hand, please, and then there's a short sentence there for you to read, please.
Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the oath of office. I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of School Board Member of Independent School District Number 2168 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you, Dan. And congratulations. Ms. Engel, please.
Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the oath of office.
I will read, and then if you would repeat after me. I apologize, I didn't do that accurately, but I swear affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state,
the Constitution of the United States and of this state,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of school board member of Independent School District number 2168 to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you, Ms. Engel, and welcome to the board. Mr. Schoenrock, please.
Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the oath of office.
I swear affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state,
the Constitution of the United States and of this state,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of school board member of Independent School District number 2168 to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you, Mr. Schoenrock, and welcome to the Board of Education. At this time, we will have roll call, and
Terry Engel,
Here.
Joanne Maloney,
Here.
Rich Mueller, Travis Raup,
Here.
Dan Schmidt,
Here.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Here.
Rick Schultz.
here. Thank you, Ms. Colseth. We have an agenda in front of us this evening. Are there any additions or corrections, Dr. Carlson?
No.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Ralph to approve the agenda as presented. Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller, Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to the election of board officers. Each year at the first meeting held in January, the Board of Education must elect their officers for the calendar year. Therefore, election will be held for these offices: chairperson, vice chairperson, clerk, and treasurer. Thank you to the 4 board members who served as officers for 2020. They were Chair Rick Schultz, Vice Chair Dan Schmidt, Clerk Karen Flatness, and Treasurer Travis Rowett. Tonight, nominations will be taken for each position, and a voice vote will be called after the close of nominations. A few procedural notes to consider provided by the MSBA. Each position is voted individually. 1 or more individuals for a position are nominated and a vote taken. If only 1 board member is nominated, the board does have an option to simply have the chair declare the nominated board member elected. If there is more than 1 nomination and the vote is not unanimous, then the minutes will reflect the vote along with the names of those board members voting against the nomination. For each position, I will ask for nominations a total of 3 times. Any board member may be nominated for any position. Board members who served in a position in 2020 can be nominated for that same position in 2021. After I have called for nominations for a 3rd time, I will declare the nominations closed if there are no further nominations. Following the closing of nominations, I will call a voice vote for each name nominated. As previously mentioned, if only 1 board member is nominated, I will declare the 1 board member who was nominated elected to the office. The position of chair. At this time, I will open nominations for chair. Is there a nomination for chair?
I nominate Rick Schultz.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any other nominations for chair? If there are no further nominations, nominations for the office of chair are closed. And I will declare Rick Schultz to continue as chair, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your support in that position. This time, the position of vice chair will be called for. Nominations for vice chair. Is there a nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Dan Schmidt for vice chair.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? There are no further nominations. Nominations for the office of vice chair are closed. I would like to name Dan Schmidt as the vice chair for the Board of Education. Congratulations, Dan. Thank you for serving.
Thank you.
Clerk. At this time, I will open nominations for clerk. Is there a nomination for clerk? I would like to nominate Ms. Terry Engel. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Are there any other nominations for clerk? If there are no further nominations, nominations for the office of clerk are closed. Since there is only one board member nominated, I declare that Ms. Terry Engel is elected clerk of the board. Congratulations to Terry. Thank you for serving. Treasurer. At this time, I will open for nominations for treasurer. Is there a nomination for treasurer? I would like to. I'd like to nominate Travis Routh. Are there any further nominations? Are there any other nominations for treasurer? There are no further nominations. Nominations for the office of treasurer are closed. Since there is only one board member nominated, I declare that Travis Routh is elected treasurer of the board. Congratulations to Travis, and thank you for serving. Congratulations to our 4 officers for 2021. Thank you for your service and leadership. Moving on to again, part of our organizational meeting, assigning school board committees. This is, I can give a little past history on this. We obviously try to divide up these committees to where different people get an opportunity to serve and experience the learning process of some of the committees that offer a variety of involvement and what we generally have done in the past is tried to respect people that want to rotate off of a particular committee and respecting people's time to that some of these committees take. So we can start off with the Finance Committee, and in 2020 we had a committee made up of Karen Flatness, Joanne Maloney, and Travis Routh. And I guess obviously we need to fill the position for Karen, but I would give the other 2 the opportunity to state whether they would be willing to stay on that committee, and we'll proceed from there.
I'm happy to stay on that committee
Okay.
unless somebody wants my spot. It's fine,
Okay. Ms. Maloney, are you comfortable continuing on that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So at this time, then, we would need to fill the position for Karen Flatness, and I guess I would ask for a volunteer.
Mr. Chairman, I would volunteer.
Okay, appreciate that, Mr. Schoenrock. So the Finance Committee will be made up of Mr. Lauren Schoenrock, Ms. Joanne Maloney, and Mr. Travis Routh. Thank you all. Moving on to the Policy Committee, we have Rich Mueller, Dan Schmidt, and Rick Schultz. Are any of you uncomfortable continuing serving in that capacity?
I'll stay.
Mr. Mueller? I don't believe he's with us this evening. So that is fair game. When you don't show up, you may be on all committees. Just new board members, make a mental note to self. All right. So the Policy Committee will remain as it was with Mr. Rich Mueller, Dan Schmidt, and Rick Schultz serving on that. Buildings and Grounds, we have Travis Routh, Rick Schultz, and Neil Schlake. We need to replace Neil's position there, and again, I would ask for a volunteer on that.
Mr. Chair, I'd volunteer for that.
Excellent. Ms. Terry Engel will join the Buildings and Grounds Committee. So that will consist of Mr. Travis Routh, Mr. Rick Schultz, and Ms. Terry Engel. Thank you all. Transportation Committee, we have 2 that are not participating. We have Rich Mueller, so we will leave Rich Mueller in that particular one. We will need 2 volunteers for. I could be one of those, so I will take one position, and then if somebody else would step to the plate on serving on the Transportation Committee, please.
I'll volunteer.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schmidt. So the Transportation Committee consists of Rick Schultz, Dan Schmidt, and Rich Mueller. Thank you all. Activities Committee, we have Mr. Routh, Mr. Schmidt, and Miss Joanne Maloney. Is anyone uncomfortable continuing? We will leave the School Activities Committee as is with Mr. Routh, Mr. Schmidt, and Miss Maloney serving on that. Negotiations with the Paraprofessionals Union. We are short 1 member there.
Yes, we should have, yep,
Right,
we should have a third one. Well, we want to have 3.
right.
Mhm.
So we would appreciate someone volunteering to join Travis Routh and Rick Schultz on that committee, unless,
And Mr. Schultz, if I may, just so the board knows that what is planned is that this upcoming year, out of the 3 major employee groups, both our teachers and paraprofessionals, this spring, will start entering in negotiations for the 21 through 23 contract. So for paraprofessionals and our teachers. And so that's what's coming up during this next year.
sure. Appreciate that. Do we have a volunteer for that committee, please?
Mr. Chair, I would volunteer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schoenrock. So negotiations with the paraprofessionals will include Mr. Routh, Mr. Schultz, and Mr. Schoenrock. Thank you all for serving. AFSCME union, negotiations with AFSCME. That again needs to have 2 replacements. And Rick Schultz continues on that. I would be more than happy to step aside if we had 3 volunteers. If not, I will continue on with that, but there could potentially be 3 continuing on with that.
I'll volunteer.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So Miss Engel is joining, and if we could have 1 more.
I'll volunteer, Rick.
Thank you, Miss Maloney. So, unless I hear anybody else that wants to join, it will be Miss Terry Engel, Miss Joanne Maloney, and Rick Schultz on the AFSCME union. Thank you all, and appreciate your service. Certified staff, that consists of Mr. Dan Schmidt. We need to replace Neil Schlake, and Rich Mueller will continue on that. If we can have 1 more volunteer there, please.
I can volunteer for that.
All right,
Mr. Schultz.
okay. Appreciate it, Mr. Rouse. So the negotiations with the certified staff consist of Dan Schmidt, Travis Routh, and Rich Mueller.
And I'll just, if I, pardon me if I'm in error, but just so you know, then both of those will be,
Negotiated this year,
yeah.
right. Travis will have a full plate of negotiation.
Well, unless somebody else wants it.
Right.
Well, again, I
Right.
just wanted
No,
to make
I-
sure,
If somebody else will take it, that's fine.
Right,
okay.
and thank you, because negotiations can be time consuming, but we do appreciate your service there. And hopefully negotiations are smooth and non-drawn out. So I believe that concludes our committee members. I did want to bear mention to the fact that I was contacted by a board member to communicate how committees are developed and the need for the different committees. It is my understanding that administration recommends the committees that we are presented with and that we fill. I did assure this member that someplace in the future we could potentially look and make sure that our committees are aligning with the needs of the district, and that we could potentially address or adjust the committees, but for the current time frame, these are the committees that are present for the school board. So with that in mind, just a congratulations to all the committee members, and thank you again for being willing to serve on those positions. We need to set the depositories for 2021. Each year the board must set the depositories for the year. Last year the State Bank in Richland and the Minnesota School Board, the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund were set as the depositories for the district for 2021. The recommendation is to continue with the same depositories. Would entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve that.
Second.
Motion made by Rich Mueller, seconded by Travis Routh, to approve the official depositories for fiscal 2021 State Bank of Richland and the Minnesota School District Liquid Asset Fund. Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Thank you. Authorization of investment electronic funds transfer 2021. Each year the board must authorize investments in electronic funds transfers. Last year the board authorized the superintendent of schools to make appropriate investments in electronic fund transfers of district funds. The recommendation is for the superintendent to continue being authorized to make appropriate investments in electronic fund transfers of district funds. There'd be a motion to do this.
Also move.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Schoenrock, seconded by Ms. Maloney, to authorize the superintendent of schools to make appropriate investments in electronic fund transfers of district funds. Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Set the official newspaper for 2021. Each year the board must set the official newspaper for the year. Last year the board approved the Star Eagle as the official newspaper for 2021. The recommendation is to continue with the Star Eagle.
So moved.
I second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Ms. Engel, to approve the Star Eagle as the official newspaper for fiscal 2021. Set the regular board meeting date, time, and location each year. Oops, excuse me. Yes, we need a roll call. Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Now we can set the regular board meeting date, time, and location. Each year, the board must set the date and time for the regular board meeting each month. Last year, the board approved the third Monday of each month at 6:30 p.m. for the regular board meeting and rotate each meeting between the two school buildings to be held in the media center. The board meeting scheduled at the elementary school will be January, March, May, July, September, and November. The board meeting schedule at the secondary school will be February, April, June, August, October, and December. Yes.
Could I just add a comment? We do acknowledge that even for the January 19th school board meeting, it's going to be here. And so as we were preparing this, we didn't know if we should start to guess how far it might be until we think we're able to resume. And the issue right now for board meetings It was, a year ago, it was construction, why we felt we needed to move here initially. But then it became the technology piece. You're staring at what we depend on in order to live stream right now. So we would have to move this over to the other building, and we don't feel we're in a position to do that. So until we get our new equipment that we are led to believe is more mobile and easier to move, we will continue to be holding our meetings here. Those meetings that we are going to live stream at least. So that's why you still see January and even March for the elementary school, even though the reality is we're probably not. But what we've done is we've done the required posting in advance to change the regular meeting site, and that's all that's really required in order to do that. The board can do what it wants to. It can just leave it like this, and we'll continue to modify that as we go along. Or you can change January to secondary school if you wanted. So,
I guess if I may, I would recommend just approving this, and I think people are understanding, and we appreciate the people following us. We feel it's more of an asset to be able to provide this virtually for the public, and then to alternate that for the time being. But please stay posted. When we get back to ordinary times, we will use that alternate method. So again, unless there's a better plan, we'll continue with this. Is there a motion to approve this meeting date, time, and location?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to set the date and time for the regular board meeting each month to the third Monday of each month at 6:30 and rotate each meeting between the two school buildings to be held in the media center. Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Set board member compensation. Each year, the board must set the compensation paid to board members. In 2018, the board approved increasing the board member compensation from 50 to 75 for regular special meetings and from 100 to 125 for full day meetings or workshops. Additional compensation, 200 for the chair, 150 for the clerk, and 100 for the treasurer. This is our one time a year to address this if we so choose. It's our one opportunity to talk about those numbers. If there is no change, we would just move forward with a motion to approve keeping those compensations at the same. So this time I will open it up for any discussion that you may have on those compensations.
Mr. Schultz, I'm okay with leaving it the way it is.
Second.
Okay, we'll take that as a motion,
Yeah,
Mr.
make a
Ralphin.
motion. Fine, I don't know, somebody want to have a discussion.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nope, and that's perfectly fine. I appreciate that. So I don't think anyone else jumped at the opportunity to really voice their concern on changing those. So appreciate that. So the motion is made by Mr. Ralph and seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the board member compensation at 75 for regular special meetings and 125 for full day meetings or workshops. And I'm assuming that you were comfortable leaving those stipends in there for the additional compensation, 200 for the chair, 150 for the clerk, and 100 for the treasurer. Is there any further discussion on this subject? Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. This time we will move into the school learning model update. The return secondary to hybrid learning January 11th and move elementary to in-person January 18th. Dr. Carlson, please.
Thank you. We do have our principals here this evening. We also have remotely with us members of our core teacher planning group that's been along the journey with us and helping give advice and counsel as we move through. We have, I believe, I'm just looking here, others that we have Ms. Olson, our nurse, with us, and I know that others that, if not with this, even the next item with an update on winter activities, I believe Mr. Stewart and Ms. Whiteside are with us. So anyway, we have a number of resources for you tonight to help with questions that you may have. You may recall that back on Tuesday, December 15th, I believe it was, we met in a special meeting and made some decisions, and we extended distance learning at that time, but we also said we're going to, through January 8th, we extended the distance learning through January 8th for both buildings. And that's all we knew at that time, the evening of December 15th. It really wasn't, other than interest, there wasn't any real direction to go out and start making plans for in-person learning and so on. The very next day, on December 16th, the governor makes an announcement that changes some things for schools to allow them, give them a little bit more flexibility to start planning to bring elementary grade levels to in-person learning, as long as you are, first of all, able to put in place some additional mitigation strategies. I can tell you that right away, on the 16th, we started to go to work administratively, but very quickly started to look at and engage different staff leaders and start having the conversation, beginning with, on the mitigation strategies, are we going to be able to do this? And we've listed those, but beginning with making sure that we're providing the regular testing for staff, which we are still in the works planning that. There's additional strategies. For example, you're seeing a few of us wearing the face shield, and those board members in attendance this evening, you have your face shield that you can take with you. And on the original guidance, it was required and now is strongly recommended, and we are moving forward with just that. We are going to expect us to wear the shield in addition to the mask until that guidance changes from the various health department, the health experts. So since the 16th, the Minnesota Department of Education then very quickly put out its guidance, in fact, later that same day, on an updated safe learning plan, which I believe has been updated now 3 times. The latest might have been the 24th. I'm not sure if it's been updated since then. So we've been trying to follow that along the way and doing our work. We believe that what we have for you tonight accomplishes a number of goals. It begins to, first of all, it does bring this, our secondary students back to hybrid learning on the 11th, which was a direction given by the board as well. That was our target goal when we extended distance learning through January 8th. At that time, we were probably looking at returning elementary to hybrid the week of January 11th as well, until the guidance changed, the rules changed, giving us maybe an additional option. So what we present to you tonight is a plan, and I'm going to take each building separately, and then again, if you specific questions, I think Mr. Anderson, Mr. Glenn might be better to respond to some of those, as well as maybe some other folks that we have with us tonight. We'll look at the secondary school first. But, by the way, both buildings this week right now are going to continue in distance learning. That's what we had planned for, that's what we had communicated to staff and families, and so we're just going to continue that. At the secondary school, the one modification to this week under this plan would be to shorten the day on Friday of this week, dismissing students from their distance learning schedule and provide the afternoon on Friday, a half day, to the secondary school staff for planning that transition, returning to hybrid learning starting next Monday, a week from today. So with the plan in front of you, really nothing changes for the secondary school building if you can recall how the hybrid model was operating back I don't have the date, Mr. Dunn.
I don't remember.
But early November perhaps, and I'm not sure if anybody else, but I apologize for the exact date. So we've been in distance learning, especially at the secondary school, for a while. So it's maintaining the 828 to 305 hybrid day. And then on Wednesday, we continue with, which we had before, the distance learning instruction in the morning, coupled with the staff planning in the afternoon. Whenever you see two different things. You see distance learning instruction, and you see distance learning staff planning, or distance learning planning. When you see that, one of the things that may help you is when you see the planning portion, that is tied to the executive order back in mid-November that required for districts that have full-time distance learners to begin with. Or if you're in even a hybrid model where you're having every other day distance learners at home. If either one of those, then we need to be providing 30 minutes, an average of 30 minutes per day. And we decided back in November as a district that working with our teachers that at that time it'd be best to have that in Wednesday afternoon as far as the planning. So that's tied to that required planning time each week, just to kind of separate that. The instruction was a decision that our school district made, and the board approved and supported that back in, I want to say early November, again, I don't have the exact dates, where to provide time for our teachers to actually focus specifically on, communicate with, and engage those students on full-time distance learning. And we still have those. We still have our students who are on full-time distance learning. At the elementary school, as of today, we're close to that 10%. We're in that 36, 37 student range. And at the secondary school, we are at a 20+% as far as full-time distance learners. So when you see the plans here for both buildings, you're going to see distance learning instruction and also distance learning planning. If you just see distance learning or DL, that's instruction as well. So probably apologize for not exactly being consistent throughout. So what you see here on the screen is for the secondary school, and the highlights down at the very bottom, the summary. Then you have the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, the schedule. You have the Wednesday schedule for both the instruction and then the planning. Where things start to look a little different, and not surprisingly, is the elementary. We haven't been in in-person learning yet. And so we have an opportunity to start to transition to that to a degree. And so let me just take a quick run through this for you. Like the secondary school, this week does not change. In fact, this week doesn't change at all. They would still have, the elementary school would still have a full day on Friday. What changes from the last board direction where we were thinking that January 11th was our target for hybrid learning, this plan changes that week. And that's mainly because we have things that now we feel we need to do and prepare for the in-person learning starting the following week, which we didn't think back on the 15th we're going to, or they even have that opportunity. And when the board met on the 21st, we know that we had started to plan, but we're still waiting for some more specifics. So, next week, the 11th and 12th, for a school who is moving to a learning plan that they have not been in yet this year. So in this case, our elementary school moving to in-person learning, where on any given day is when you are having students, an entire grade level, attend every day on that same day and not 50-50. Then on the 11th and 12th, we're required to have a minimum or provide a minimum of 2 planning days for staff. And that is again when a school is moving to a model that they have not been in yet, especially moving to in-person learning. So you might have other school districts that have already been in-person learning this year prior. And you may see them not necessarily scheduling these days because they've already been there. For example, our secondary school has already been in hybrid learning. We are scheduling or proposing a half day of planning on this Friday. For next week, so there would be no school on Monday and Tuesday of next week at the elementary school. Again, this is just the elementary school. Wednesday next week, the staff would be working on the typical Wednesday schedule of distance learning and be communicating that with families. On Thursday, January 14th and January 15th, Friday, we will be bringing students in those 2 days under the hybrid schedule. And I think one of the priorities for those 2 days, having fewer students there, it will allow our staff to work with them, with our students, to help prepare and go through the changes that they should be expecting when they come in the door on Monday, January 18th. You're going to see in the next section this what's called a 2-week rolling start. And what you'll see though is for 2 weeks, it's going to be the Bridges kindergarten through grade 2 that's going to be experiencing the greatest change right away on Monday, January 18th, because all of them would be returning together. Part of what's called the rolling start, which is one of those additional mitigation strategies that we must do if we want to go in this direction, we can have at most 3 grade levels on the 18th start in person. And we're going to consider Bridges and kindergarten the same grade level for our purposes. So we've made the decision, and we are in this plan proposing that we start with our earliest learners at Bridges kindergarten through grade 2 and start bringing them in all in person. But during that 2-week period, the other grade levels, no more than 3, but that works for us, grades 3 through 5, would then be attending in the hybrid model during those 2 weeks. So on January 18th, so I'm going to scroll down. On January 18th, you can see the first kind of column here, Bridges kindergarten through grade 2. That would be their in-person schedule as you go through that week of the 18th through the 22nd. The second column is for grades 3 through 5 in a hybrid model. And that goes back to the day A, where we'll say roughly half students then attend in person while the other half remains remote. And then they flip the next day. And then as it has been in the hybrid model, the Wednesday then continues to be the distance learning focus for our full-time distance learners, as well as the planning in the afternoon. Week 2 of the rolling start, Monday, January 25th, is already scheduled as a no school for students because it's the end of the second quarter. And so that's a scheduled planning day. So that's not associated with the learning model. That was already scheduled on the calendar. And then we start back up on Tuesday the 26th, again in person for Bridges Kindergarten to grade 2, and pick right up on the hybrid. And then beginning February 1, all grade levels at the elementary would be attending, starting Monday, in person. And this plan maintains the Wednesday of the focus on the full-time distance learners. And I'm not able to share tonight what we might predict at what point, based on numbers, might that change, be able to change where the required planning time coupled with also a focused time for instruction and communication with our full-time distance learners. So you have kind of a short summary there summarizing the elementary plan. So, I know that's a lot to you, but I want to thank a number of people who have contributed over the couple of weeks and including over the holiday break, working on multiple plans that has led to this one being presented tonight. So, I guess it would be now questions that the board would have, and I might refer those to others that might be able to do a better job at responding.
I was wondering, for Mr. Anderson, will the special ed kids still come on Wednesdays on the distance learning days?
Yeah, I would see that continuing along with, right now, even on the hybrid day, we're bringing those kids in on the day that they're home. So I would see that continuing.
And do all of our kids come in, or are some of our special ed kids in the elementary choosing to distance learn the whole time?
We have almost all of our kids that are coming in.
So, Mr. Blunt, is that the same? How many?
We have some that have chosen distance learning full-time, special ed kids.
Otherwise, like how many special ed kids do you bring to the school every day?
Each case manager will have, let's see here, 1 or 2, 3, I think roughly 3 to 4 potentially a day.
So, how many case managers is that?
There's 5.
Okay, so about 15 kids.
But some of them, we have some other ones that have declined to come in,
Right.
even with the offer.
Are they struggling academically as well? Are some of the special ed kids failing?
Yeah, it's been helpful to bring them, to bring them in.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
With bringing the elementary school back full-time, does that create challenges for busing?
Yeah, the guidance on transportation has continued to change since September as well, but we still believe that if we can operate within the 50% capacity, which we believe we can, we'll be fine with that. So to answer your question, based on what we know right now, yes, we should be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Carlson, this is Rich. I know we're looking at doing a rolling start with the the elementary. And if I'm not mistaken, we can do 3 grade levels at a time. Are we looking at any plans in the very near future to start the secondary back into in person?
Yeah, Mr. Mueller, that's absolutely on our mind right now. We are still, there's conversation, much like the state came out, a little bit of a surprise on December 16th, without any advance, I guess, warning of the new guidance that would allow us to start considering elementary. There's been discussion, should we be expecting something similar for middle and or high school levels? Or the guidance right now is to continue to monitor the case rates out at the county level and in your community. So right now, we have an interest of starting to look at that, Mr. Mueller, but I don't have anything specific tonight that says, if you do this, then you can do this, much like what we received for the elementary. And what that phase in, you know, we could envision possibly a phase in, something similar, whether we would choose middle school, whatever. But I guess right now I don't want to speculate tonight what that might look like.
This is Terry Engel. Would it be wrong on our part to try to put together some kind of a plan for the secondary to get back? If we, you know, to get input from teachers on whether we think it would be more beneficial for, say, seniors to come back with, you know, I mean, just what would be best, do we think, for our kids, and just to get a plan going so that we're ahead of the game instead of waiting for the state to tell us what to do. Because I truly feel with all the kids that are falling behind, for whatever reason, that it's best, we need to get them back in school as soon as we can safely do that.
Absolutely. You know, even going back to the hybrid, we worked with our regional support team to get their support to move. Right now, our focus has been on this.
Right.
And so,
I understand that.
as soon as I think we can get a handle on getting this moving forward, that attention is, I think, going to quickly shift to what does that look like then at the secondary school? And that's a conversation going on right now. People are starting to move beyond conversations that I'm involved with other districts. That's a conversation we're having. What does that look like? Are we going to be operating under different guidelines? But what does that look like? And so I think that I don't want to get too far out in front of this tonight, but that's in many ways, a logical next step, that we would be going back to our key staff and starting to have that conversation and what that planning might look like.
It's just, to me, the time is just ticking, and all the time, I just don't think that we should wait that long to do the research to get them back, because I don't know, it just breaks my heart to see so many kids failing and struggling and not being able to do something for them.
Could you update us, and I know we've only had a short time back in session after the break here, but our current case numbers in the district, Dr. Carlson, as far as what our hopefully accurate numbers are, but maybe perhaps a best guess after the break?
Yeah, Ms. Olson, I don't know as far as today, I know we last updated our dashboard last week Thursday, and we did have 0 positive cases at that time over the break, and we were anxious to kind of, we want to thank those families that have contacted us as well over the break. So, Ms. Olson, any further update to Mr. Schultz's question?
Yeah, the only one I have right now are 2 students in the secondary building that are quarantined. I only had one person contact me during break. That's it. Otherwise, everyone else has gone off because of the time frame.
Okay.
Donna, this is Terry. Is our staff healthy?
Yes, I have one teacher that was possibly exposed over break, but we're still doing some research on that. Otherwise, I don't know of any other positive cases for staff, positive or quarantined.
So, just to make sure I understand it right, I don't know which one you could answer this, but distance learning then, so distance learning students are sitting through the class all day long, correct? The normal class. Is that right? So if they can so if they have questions, they can ask the teacher during the class just like any other student could?
In this building, yeah.
Right, is that different in the elementary then?
That's happening in the upper elementary, but not quite so much. Although we do have in our youngest learners that are joining Number Corner, are joining, literacy instruction, but certainly not as many as over here.
Well, I guess I'm thinking more as far as looking through this for the elementary and stuff, and I know we voted on this a while ago, but what does a day look, so that the distance learning planning, that's if I'm understanding this right, that's mandated, correct? So we have to do that. The distance learning instruction, we decided to do that. So if we weren't doing distance learning instruction, what does that day look like, Dr. Carlson? Or maybe the other ones can answer, but then the kids would only go to school half a day and get bused home then? If it was like that?
Under this, yes, that would be what would be happening if that instruction wasn't there, correct?
I think we need to think long and hard about what the greater good really is. If we've got a minimal percent distance learning, I sure don't want them to fail, but I sure want the other 90 to succeed. So I think we need to think about that a little bit.
Dr. Carlson, do you have a breakdown of how many students are distant learning in the elementary per grade? Or Mr. Anderson?
So at the kindergarten level, 4, first grade, 5, second grade, 7, third is 6, 4 is 6, and 5 is 8. And I haven't had 36.
36.
10% roughly then,
So
like you said.
36 is a classroom.
Right. Yeah, big
But
class.
not every teacher has a distance learning student, correct?
Correct.
So it's spread out, like in kindergarten, they have 3 kindergarten sections, so.
Yeah, I think that's back to Travis's point, or don't want to speak for him, but I feel that we have to balance that. Again, we don't want to lose our distance learners or let them fall too far behind, but what is the cost to those other students that can use the in-person instruction that are missing that in-person instruction because of balancing that time for staff to concentrate? And again, valid point, Ms. Engel, on some staff don't have them, so I guess not saying they don't have anything to do, but I question the learning potential for students for those that don't. But maybe someone can address.
Yeah, they're still meeting in small groups. They're doing guided reading groups or guided math groups, or several of them are using that opportunity to work individually.
Sure.
with kids that
Struggling,
are struggling
okay.
and behind.
Sure.
So it's like a
Managing
find
that.
time to.
And I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I'm kind of thinking more of during the in-person model, because I would assume in the hybrid model, that would give the teachers to help any of the students that might have questions, not just the distance learners maybe, but to me, you know, what really gets me thinking about this when we go to in-person, well, maybe I'm naive, but I thought in-person was
Coming back.
in-person,
Right.
5 days a week. That's what the phrase is, but it doesn't appear to be that way, so.
Right.
Well, I think it's because some kids their families have chosen to keep them
Yeah.
home, and there's nothing that we can do about that.
Well, I
But-
understand that, but I just thought in person, I'm not the distance learning part, but I just thought in person would be 5 days a week. I understand during hybrid, but.
And coming from a teaching background, I understand how hard, you know, I guess, I don't know if hard's the right word, but maybe challenging it is to balance, you know, if you've got 5 kids in your classroom that are distance learning, and then, you know, when do you have the time? Because if you're teaching in person all day long with all those kiddos, then what are you gonna do with your other 5? Because, you know, it's hard in the elementary. It would be different in the secondary. They could just get on and watch the class, but not all kids are gonna sit down and listen to a 20-minute math lesson or all of those things, so it's really hard. And then are the parents there to help them, or are they at daycare getting that? I mean, it's so complicated.
Well, I agree with that, Ms. Wise, that's very true in a particular classroom setting. I'm kind of thinking about the elementary as a whole. And if we're 9% of our students are distance learning, my question was, where are we going to prioritize this? Or the 90%, you know, everybody has an importance, right? Every student is important. But where's the line there? We start getting down 9%, 8%, you know, to me, that anybody can come back to school if they'd like to. They don't have to distance learn.
Right.
The people that are in person want to learn as best that they can. And they're the 90%.
And I
But
truly
the
think
other
there's,
kids are important too. That's my question. Where are we
yeah,
gonna draw the
I
line?
understand where you're coming from. I totally do.
and I think there is a number there. Again, we might
I don't
have
know
different
who's
opinions
gonna
where that
draw it,
number is,
but-
but I don't, and again, back to that point, and I think I've stated it publicly before, I don't feel personally that I ever was in support of that Wednesday being a complete distance learning day for the continuation of the school year, in the event we could get back to in-person learning. And
I didn't understand it that way either.
I don't think that was our intent at the time of approving it, so I would ask administration to monitor that and work on getting that day back to in-classroom instruction. Again, maybe finding where that number is and working with that somewhat. I don't know if the board can do that as well as administration could, but it's really starting to hit home with me of the time that we've lost of in-person instruction, and the more we can get them in the classroom and the more hands-on teacher and student is the way we're going to try and salvage some success out of this educational year, I feel. So
Well, and I feel the same way about bringing the secondary back.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
we just
100%.
have to get them back.
Absolutely. There's a sense of urgency here
I-
on the success of education
least-
this year.
You know, even if you brought middle school and seniors or something like that, just to get a rolling started, I just hate to have us wait until March. My goodness, then you've got
Right.
2
Not much
months that
left.
you've already lost.
How much lead time is a family supposed to be giving on their intentions of being distance or not? I don't remember if there was a
Well,
kind of a mandate of the time they had to give.
you know, at the beginning, to establish the beginning model at the start of the year, there was a minimum of 1 week.
Okay.
And we accomplished that, you know, along our journey here, we've had to make some quick decisions.
Right.
Typically to a more restrictive model, to the distance learning, for example. But, you know, this is, we think that, I'm not sure the purpose of your question, Mr. Smith, but you know, the timing of this, we feel that decision, whatever it is tonight, that, you know, the first, well, both buildings will be impacted, but we feel like with the secondary school, we've been kind of, since early before the winter break, we said January 11th was a target for hybrid. It's just this coming Friday that would be a little bit of a change. And then we feel that, you know, the change here is more for the elementary beginning next week. They wouldn't be coming back to that hybrid. So again.
Well, as I guess where I'm kind of going, and not that I expected an answer, but do you have a gut on if that number could go up or down with the full-time distance students?
We're pretty confident that we know 5 of those distance learners will be back once we go in person.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't have an exact number. We'll be sending a communication out to families, and those families that are anticipating a change, you know, we're going to be asking them to get in touch with us right away so that we can facilitate that.
Okay.
We've been having some changes, you know, kind of back and forth already in this building.
I guess my question from Mr. Anderson is, if they have 3.5 hours to spend with, if there's 2 kids per classroom, is that time well spent for the teachers, do you think?
You know, there's a variety of different things that they're doing besides the core teaching, you know, the core lesson, whether that's a math or a reading lesson. But there's also, like with our reading, there's guided work, small group or individual work that takes place, but then there's also assessment that teacher is completing with that student as well during that time. If there are any elementary team members that want to add to that, feel free.
And again, back to the secondary coming back into in-person, I know that, I mean, obviously we want to try and address the state guidelines, but you can read that 2 ways too. They're really not telling us we can't either, and I think some other school districts in the area have kind of taken that approach too from, well, until they tell us we can't do it this way, we've been pushing this way. So again, not that administration hasn't been thinking of that, but I think the tone of the board here continues to be encourage, and I think the term aggressive has been used in a couple prior meetings, that we would like to see this err on the side of early versus dragging it out, because the year is getting beyond us here too. But
And that message is I think shared by many. We're all anxious to get to that point. I don't know, especially our older level, I just share that the numbers, the cases out there in our communities and counties, we continue to monitor those, and it's encouraging to see the direction. But I'm not one that feels that I'm going to ignore this, though, as far as that there's still the virus out there. And I'm not, I know that's not what everybody's saying, but we still are dealing with the numbers. And I just feel until someone says differently from those public health officials, which I'm not one of them, that still need to pay attention to that. And I know that we all understand that, and that's a conversation we've been having, and the struggle we've been having throughout all this.
What if we, this is Terry again, what if we looked at bringing back, I mean, there were 300 plus failing grades. I know that doesn't mean it's 300 students, but, you know, there's kids with multiple failing grades and our special ed population. What if we brought them, at least got them back here? The kids that are woefully behind and failing, maybe the kids that have some, you know, that where Brooke and Robin know that there's just some mental health issues, that it would be healthy for some of those kids to get back. If we can even just start there to try to bridge that gap, because if we're going to keep in hybrid learning, then what's the plan to get those kids to be passing? I mean, I know Mr. Bunn did some wraparound meetings and stuff, but you haven't had the time to meet with, I mean,
No.
even if 100 of them are failing, or 60.
No, and some of the teachers, they, you know, are holding the kids in, what do you call it, breakout rooms,
Yes, breakout rooms.
and trying to work with them on a, you know, a one-on-one or one on a small group type scenario. But yeah, it's,
But because it would be, is it midterm yet? So what are the numbers now?
not good.
Yeah. Is it worse or the same?
Yeah, it's worse, but I think that we're, you know, and where we're struggling, where the kids are really not doing well, is the ones that are not attending. And, you know, that kind of goes to your point of, you know, get them
Get them in.
because then we can put our thumb on
So
them.
are they, you mean, are they distance learners, or are they just, you mean, because the fact that they're not getting face-to-face instruction?
Yeah, they might be because they're home, you know, and
Not
they're
even
just
logging
not.
in, based on kind of.
Yep.
Because, I mean, if we could look at that, that would at least be something.
Again, back to Dr. Carlson's point here of the numbers are, and we had that discussion earlier today of the county numbers, they still are concerning. I do come back and appreciate Ms. Olson's work as our school nurse, and that's encouraging that we have low numbers. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves on that because we've had the break and we don't know how accurate reporting is. But again, back to if we can do it in our school district in a manageable level of this is pretty good news on those numbers. Again, I think stepping into it, we'll get more of a handle next week as some students come back and more of a feel, but I'm sure administration is getting a little tired of the repetitiveness of this, but we want to be very clear as a board and a district here of it's time to push this envelope because we're concerned on how the education process is going here. So, any further questions or anything back to this learning model that jumps out? Again, we talked very clearly on that Wednesday of distance learning and advised the administration to look at that as we move back to in-person. The rest of it, I think most of us are familiar with the AB situation, the two board members. I don't want to underestimate your learning, but you understand how that is kind of how the district has been divided into those two groups, and you're comfortable with how that flows and understanding that. I guess before we would entertain a motion to approve this, which is what the administration is asking and recommending, one last go around here for questions, otherwise we'll move on from it. And When is our regular meeting? January 19th, does that sound right? Isn't that terribly far away? We can expect an update there on a little sampling of having a few students back, which we're excited to hear how that goes. And we have some activities starting this week, so the steps are starting there. We hope that we're in the direction of getting this back into a full-fledged learning model. So, any further questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve that learning model as it has been presented tonight.
I make a motion we approve the learning model as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Engel, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the administration's plans as presented to return secondary to hybrid learning beginning January 11th and move elementary to in-person learning beginning January 18th. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Julian Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rowe,
Nay.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Continuing on adjustments, we have the winter activities update. Dr. Carlson, please.
Yeah, we don't have anything to really present, we just wanted to give an update. Practice has started. I know that Mr. Stewart is on with us, and we didn't really rehearse a plan for this, but Mr. Stewart just, I don't know if you've even had time to assess today what's happening even as we speak, but any kind of just a brief update you want to provide?
Sure. Yeah, as you know, we did start practices today. I have spent a lot of time meeting with our coaches in grades 7 through 12 for all the sports to go over all the guidelines and requirements that we have to follow and that we will follow. And all the coaches have been receptive to that. We feel like we have a good plan in place to keep our kids as safe as we possibly can with the masks on and social distancing and hand washing and all that sort of thing. So we are following the guidelines to a T, and things went well tonight. I was in Owendale for the junior high practices tonight. I know things went well over there. We're short a few kids. That's a little bit disappointing. Some people have elected not to play because they don't want to put a mask on. So we're kind of reviewing what our numbers are, but we're off and running.
I know that, go ahead.
Might have been just some back feedback.
Okay, so thank you. I know it's a lot of planning, and I want to, first of all, thank Mr. Stork of all the work he's put in over the weeks here to get this set along with our coaches and others. As Mr. Stork said, we're just kind of seeing and assessing this week to see how this week goes, and that might kind of go into, I don't want to mix the two issues, but I know that trying to assess our facility usage, if you remember back, towards the end of November, when we decided to delay the start of winter sports the first time, in that same conversation was other organizations, community organizations, beginning with some of the youth sports organizations, and how's that tied to our facility use and the protocol that we're having to follow with our own activities. And so, the questions have been asked, already asking, where might the district be with facility use. We do have Macy Whiteside on with us as well, who helps kind of manage that piece. We're in some conversation with those groups. We feel really right now we have to figure out and see how our activities are doing. Facility use in both buildings and so on, to get a good sense of are we ready to open the buildings up for the other groups. And we don't have anything to propose or ask of the board tonight. Certainly open to hear any thoughts or from your discussion you might have. But I don't want to close the door first on Mr. Stork and activities. If the board has any Any questions about activities specifically?
Dan, this is Terry Engel. I was wondering, did the Minnesota State High School League, have they changed the requirements for kids as far as their grades and things like that and participation? Have they waived that?
Terry, and welcome to the board.
Thank you.
No, the Minnesota State High School League rules in terms of academics simply states that students must be making adequate progress towards graduation. So it's really kind of open-ended. That's something that we have discussed a lot. I have, I guess, the administrative team and the coaches in other schools to see what everybody else is doing, and because it's a challenge. I mean, there has been some changes made to that, and starting back with last spring, we've made some of those decisions. It isn't a typical year for that, I could say.
So are we letting the kids, if they're failing, they still get to participate?
That is correct. Right now, we are doing that. The only thing we are doing is asking that the coaches regularly touch base with those kids and check their grades with them and try to get them up to speed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Hey, Dan, this is Rich Miller. I know I've asked you this before. Is there any definite dates of when they can start in attendance type of things?
I'm sorry, I'm not following you, Rich. Meaning start dates for the winter sports?
Well, starting to play games and wrestling matches and things like that, when they can actually start.
Yep, those dates have been set. We have a wrestling match that will start off our winter season next Thursday, January 14th, and boys and girls basketball are scheduled to play Friday, January 15th.
Have we received any guidance yet as to when fans will be allowed, or will they be allowed?
That's a good question, man. We have not received any guidance on that. We don't know if they will or will not at this point. They have not said anything regarding fans. I think when we've seen the media that says, oh, no fans allowed, I think what happened there was people got their wires crossed, and the guidance that did come out was specific in saying that no fans are allowed at practices. But we have not received anything in terms of events or games themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Stork, I'm not sure if things have changed too. You and I, we've had a conversation just about some of the protocol. Has anything really changed since, like volleyball? I say volleyball because of it being an indoor sport, but even for our teams, having to distance and so on, and the impact on our gymnasium and facility, anything that you think is noteworthy to share about what the expectations are there?
Yeah, the big thing is that we could build a new gym here before next Thursday. That was fun. And it has to be much larger than the current gym. I think that's a good question. In this fall with volleyball, there wasn't as specific as guidelines in terms of social distance during practice, during game, during the bench, that sort of thing. And admittedly, we probably didn't do as good a job with that as we could have. And I think we've learned from that, and we've gotten more detailed guidance this time around with this winter season, and we're doing a better job of that. I feel I've been had some pretty lengthy meetings with a lot of the coaches, all of the coaches, and they've been pretty receptive to it. Nobody's excited to wear masks while you're trying to yell out a play to a team or try to run up and down the floor as a player. But the bottom line is we feel that we've been given an opportunity to play. These are the guidelines that they told us we have to follow in order to play safely, and we're going to do that. So, I think more than anything, we've probably learned from our experience with volleyball and football and the ball sports, and probably are doing a better job of it now than we had then, and rightfully so. I think we've got a better handle on things.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate everyone's input on that, and I guess unless there was something else that we could ask anyone involved here tonight, I would be ready to entertain a motion. You're looking for a motion to approve here, or this
No,
is just
no,
discussion?
I'm sorry
Yeah,
on that.
okay.
We just, in case there was,
Right.
we have no recommendation.
You have no
for any
recommendation
motion.
of, and this
No,
is all
No, this was more of
approved
an
from,
update
okay.
of what's going on, and thank you, Mr. Stork.
Right, anything to add about the winter updates then, or the winter activity update?
Yeah.
That concludes our business for this evening, so at this time I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Rao to adjourn. Ms. Colseth, please.
Terry Engel,
Aye.
Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rowe,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for your participation, and thanks for listening in if you did. Have a good evening.